So we are looking at the closing section of Act 5, Scene 1. The class is poised with pens in hand. Back row, do you have enough light? You sure? I'm happy for you to move to this front row here if you don't. Before we go any further, let's think about entrances and exits. Really, really important in theatre. When the playwright, and then to some extent the director, choose to have a character enter. So what is the effect of having Sebastian enter here at this point? What's just been happening? Heather?
I don't know if it makes sense, but she's Olivia, the line she says she's talking about having like hurts look to. And then when Sebastian comes in, it's like he's going to heal the problems.
Oh, we like that, don't we? Lovely. So Sebastian here has the potential to heal as he resolves the play. Emily?
Just going off what Heather said, like going into, is it Emma Smith that says he kind of fixes the plot, it's just a plot device?
Yeah, that he doesn't have much else to do in the play except work towards the denouement. And what does she call it? She says that the entrance of Sebastian then makes the play it's alliterative, CC, a comfortable comedy. Well done. So we're revising a bit of AO5 as we go along. And up to this point, things have been very frantic. There's a lot of movement. So Toby's really upset Sir Andrew, hasn't he? And he's going off all upset. Okay. And Sebastian comes in. Now this last scene has to be directed really carefully, because you have to have Sebastian come in and go and speak straight to Olivia. Not because who else is on the stage, or who's potentially on the stage here? Liz?
Antonio Feste, Viola Asvaria,
Yeah.
Sir Toby.
Well, Sir Toby and Sir Andrew have just gone off, but the two important ones, you've said them, Antonio and Viola. So we can't have him come on and notice either one of them first. Otherwise, this next bit, we lose the comedy. Because Sebastian's entrance also, as well as starting to resolve things, it also starts to bring it back to a bit of a lighter note in many productions, as we'll see in the National Theatre one, not necessarily. I am sorry, madam, I have hurt your kinsman. But had it been the brother of my blood, I must have done no less with wit and safety. You throw a strange regard upon me, and by that I do perceive it hath offended you. Pardon me, sweet one, even for the vows we made each other but so late ago. So let's unpick that a little bit, shall we? Who would like to draw attention to anything there? Will, do you want to start us off?
So he's saying there that he's like, because he's basically saying that he's hurt. So in coming in, he's I can't quite. Right, is he saying that he's hurt someone?
Who's he hurt? Who's he hurt? Reese? And so Toby. Sorry, that I'm thinking that you know what kinsman means. What does kinsman mean? It means relative, your kin. I have hurt your kinsman. So he's coming in to explain to Olivia what he's done. We already know what he's done because we've seen both of them come in with bloodied coxcombs. But had it been the brother of my blood? Right, tell me about this line. So first of all, let's figure out what he's saying in these 3 lines here. He's saying, I'm really sorry, I've hurt your relative, but even if it had been my own brother, I had to do the same for my own, I'd have had to do the same for my own safety. But what AO2 is there that we would like to comment on? Emily?
Is it maybe just a link to their kind of not yet marriage? How they're not, if they were married, that he would be his kinsman, he would be like his brother, sort of thing. So it's kind of the,
Oh, right.
because they kind of did the thing that's
Okay.
before a marriage.
So maybe a reference to like the marriage
I don't know.
betrothal. I've got my, sorry. I do know how to spell marriage. It's just my I looked a bit odd there. No, AO2 I'm looking for here, Reese.
The alliteration for the remarkable.
Yes. So it actually, the alliteration just kind of supports what Emily is saying. But also, as well as alliteration, what is that? It's irony, yeah, because his brother is on the stage in front of him. Well done. You throw a strange regard upon me, and by that I do perceive it hath offended you. So what is Olivia doing? What does throw a strange regard mean? Looking at him weird, yeah. Oh, you're looking at, oh, I'm really sorry. But so, again, in a play about perceptions and about deceptions and disguise, he can only make sense of her expression based on his experience. Pardon me, and he asked for forgiveness. So, Sebastian's introduction to the rest of the play is one that shows that he's a good man, he's honourable, he's being polite. But it's not Olivia that responds, it's Orsino. One face, one voice, one habit, and two persons. A natural perspective that is and is not. Right, okay. So I think we can understand what's going on here. So we're reminded, even if these characters don't look entirely alike, that that's how they are being perceived by the other characters in the play. A natural perspective that is and is not. What does that mean? Say that again. Yeah, so it should be something from nature, but it isn't. Anything else?
I can't find a quote, but I think a couple of times Sebastian mentions and kind of refers to things being and not being at the same time.
Oh, I'm not sure.
It's towards the end, like before he's like speaking to Viola, I think it is.
Take a look.
And that's like, he says that exact line that is in the Oh, it's Malvolio, I think. Generally, Malvolio. Because after it shows it's got two services.
Right, can we find it then? Anyone? People looking? Well, he does when he's talking about the windows and everything. And then he talks about darkness and ignorance.
Is it when he speaks to Viola about being a churchman?
No.
I'm looking for a football.
You right?
Yeah.
Where have you been?
I've emailed him about it.
Okay, darling, I'll check. I thought you were telling me through your mask. I didn't realise that you were...
I don't know what it is.
Right, let's move on. Right. It's going to annoy me now that I can't find it. But anyway, it's something to do with whether you can believe your eyes as well. It's that thing about perception. So, Sebastian speaks... Oh, go on.
It reminds me like he's going mad.
Yeah. Yes, he's like, this is the sky and this is the pearl she gave me, and she can't be mad because otherwise she wouldn't be able to run her household, so what's going on? Good. So everyone is having a moment of doubt and questioning themselves as to what's happening. Sebastian has spoken to Olivia. Orsino has responded to Sebastian. Olivia still hasn't spoken, and now Sebastian's going to talk to Antonio. That's who he notices, and I think that's important as well. Doesn't notice his sister there. Now, obviously, in production, you could have Viola behind a pillar or, sitting down somewhere. But I still think it's interesting that Shakespeare has Sebastian notice Antonio first. How have the hours racked and tortured me since I have lost thee? What do you make of that line? Heather? Yeah. No. He's lying.
Yeah, because when you got, well, not married.
Yeah. It's absolute rubbish. He hasn't been racked and tortured. He hasn't been... So it's like it's being metaphorical, obviously, but it's incredibly hyperbolic, and it's also quite dishonest. So we've got the whole thing about torture. The torture as a motif comes up quite a lot in this play, I'm noticing, my second year of teaching it. It's hyperbole, and it's also a lie. Sebastian, are you? Fearest thou that, Antonio? Is everybody going mad? How can you not tell it's me? How have you made division of yourself? An apple cleft in two is not more twin than these two creatures. Which is Sebastian? Now, when Olivia says most wonderful, what might she mean there, Kathy?
Two's better than one, like.
Woohoo! What else might it mean, though? If you break that word wonderful, it's like the word awesome.
She's in awe.
Like how full of wonder is this moment? Like, whoa, like a bit surreal. Yeah. So that whole play on, like, literally what is happening in front of our eyes. Are we supposed to believe it? But Antonio uses that imagery from nature of an apple cleft in two to suggest that this isn't something occult. But at this point, Sebastian clocks his sister. I always have a bit of a problem with this section, because I'm pretty sure I'd recognise my sister even if she were in men's clothing. In fact, one of my sisters pretty much only wears men's clothing. Is that right, Emily? Yeah. So what is it that's this is where we've got to be really kind of the time, that it would have been completely unnatural to see your sister in men's clothing. And maybe something done with the hair, that kind of thing. Do I stand there? So how does he explain it to himself? It must be me. Ooh, I never had a brother. Work it out, Seb, work it out. Nor can there be that deity in my nature of here and everywhere. And I'm also not a god that can be in more than one place at a time. I had a sister whom the blind waves and surges have devoured. Right. Okay, so blind waves and surges have devoured. Jess, what kind of AO2 is that? It is, yeah. And it's back to that idea of the consumption of the sea. Heather, bless you.
Also kind of ironic because he's literally looking at her and he isn't seeing her, so she's still dead even though he can see her.
Yes, lovely. V, still dead to him. This must be some brilliant clothing she's in.
Allegedly, but my reading of it is that the clothing is just like, it's really obvious that she's a woman. Like, it's like really ill-fitting, and she's wearing like a big
She's in
bag.
culottes. Got a bikini top on underneath the t-shirt. Of Charity, what kin are you to me? What countryman? What name? What parentage? What would you expect Viola's response to be here? It's me! It's Viola, it's your sister. But she doesn't. She doesn't. Of Messaline. Sebastian was my father. Such a Sebastian was my brother too. So went he suited, like looking like you, to his watery tomb. If spirits can assume both form and suit, you come to fright us. So it isn't a natural assumption to Sebastian that this figure in front of him is his sister. Neither is it to Viola, who also assumes Olivia. What does she assume that Sebastian is?
Spirit.
Which is a ghost. Ooh.
But he's not in disguise.
He's just
Literally just Sebastian.
But is that, has she so convinced herself of his death?
But the thing is, in the first scene we see her in, she's like, you know what, I kind of hope he's still alive. And she like has quite a lot of hope that
It's
he's
the setup for the
dead.
twin brothers.
that they're twins and therefore that their fates are entwined. And yet, as soon as she actually sees him, she's like, oh, I'm not sure now.
Liz?
I think we definitely see how the characters like deny everyone's true self. Like
Mm.
Orsino denies Olivia to not like him, and then the twins completely deny each other of being themselves.
They're idiots.
But for what reason? Yeah, like why? Is it because it's going to disadvantage Viola to now have to play her hand to say, yeah, actually,
I mean, the whole point of 12th Night is that there isn't a reason. Is there?
that's not going to work in your exam though, Emily.
No, but to the topsy-turvy.
To the topsy-turvy.
Because it's 12th Night. Like,
So in a way, because this is the end of 12th Night, we have to have the topsy-turvy put back in its place.
That's insane. It wouldn't make much
Or maybe
sense.
it's just comedic, like we're meant to find humour in the fact that it's so obvious.
I do wonder that if an original audience would have found it funnier than us. I think we can see it as more poignant. You know, when you're almost like something's so too good to be true that you don't let yourself believe it. I think there's an element of that, like, is it for me, really? This sports car on my foot, well, it wouldn't be a sports car, this motorhome on my drive with a big red ribbon on it saying happy birthday, Julie. Isabel.
It's kind of like Viola's starting to enjoy the kind of drama of it as well.
Yes.
She's like, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and so is Sebastian. It's like everyone's kind of been drawn into the kind of performance. It's like
Yes.
So it's like that motif.
Lovely. I like that idea of everyone's being drawn into it. A spirit I am indeed. But am in that dimension grossly clad which from the womb I did participate. So the soul of me is the same as that I was born into. But I think this is perhaps, well, what might it be a reference to? If his soul's the same, but what's not the same? Emily M? What's he been through? Almost being drowned, and we've talked about kind of that idea of rebirth. So perhaps it's an acknowledgement that, yeah, maybe you don't recognise me straight away because I look different because I've been changed by my experiences. Were you a woman, as the rest goes even, I should my tears let fall upon your cheek and say, thrice welcome, drowned Viola.
Is that the first time her name has been said?
It is, yeah. Ba-da! There it is.
And the audience doesn't know what she's called.
No, they don't actually, do they? But Viola pushes it a bit further. My father had a mole upon his brow. This is the bit where I'm like, okay, come on, he's just used your name. My father had a mole upon his brow, and so had mine, and died that day when Viola from her birth had numbered 13 years. Oh, that record is lively in my soul. He finished indeed his mortal act. That day that made my sister 13 years. And you, Sebastian, because you're twins born within the hour. So there's still a sense of separation between them here. And I wonder if that's deliberate. Go on, Isabel.
I don't understand. Are they saying that their father died on their 13th birthday?
Yes.
How old are they? Like here?
I don't know.
Are they like 13?
They do mention it in
Oh,
like
yeah,
a recent thing.
Yeah.
They
Didn't die too long ago.
Because they're both, you mentioned that they're both in mourning still.
Yeah.
That's the thing that like...
I'm going to go 16.
They've been
I'm
in
gonna-
mourning for 3 years.
Yeah, get over it, guys.
Dad's dead.
When Viola's like,
We're all making fun of Olivia for saying she's been in mourning for 7 years.
Go on, Liz.
when she's like
Oh, she has
Mark
more.
and Dad talk about him, like suggesting a possible marriage to Orsino, it's like she
That
must
makes
be
it feel
younger than
very
13.
recent.
Wait, what
Well-
did you make it recent?
Go on, Liz.
When she's like, I've heard my father talk about Orsino,
And he wasn't then married.
she would have been like 12, 13. And Orsino sounds like he's quite old.
Well, in the National Theatre production, he's 40. He has his 40th birthday. But you know what? Let's not focus in on that. It's not going to be necessary for your exam.
Shakespeare, time isn't linear.
Yeah, I told you, Shakespeare doesn't do time very well. Every writer's allowed a flaw. If nothing lets to make us happy both, but this, my masculine usurped attire, do not embrace me till each circumstance of place, time, fortune do cohere and jump that I am Viola. So she puts him off embracing him. She says, I want to make sure everything's explained. Again, I find that quite odd, and it's very rarely adhered to in productions where they embrace fully. Which to confirm, I'll bring you to a captain in this town. Nobody's reminded me to put my glasses on, by the way. Thanks. It's like you want me to get a headache. Where lie my maiden weeds, meaning clothing, by whose gentle help I was preserved to serve this noble count. All the occurrence of my fortune since hath been between this lady and this lord. So, that's interesting. I don't know why she kind of puts him off. We might want to talk about that later. Sebastian now returns back to Olivia, the woman he's going to marry. Because Olivia has fallen in love with a woman. Can't be having that kind of thing, can we? So comes it, lady, you have been mistook. But nature to her bias drew in that. Now that's a reference. He's basically reassuring her that it's okay, because Sebastian's saying, Viola and I are so alike that what you would have been attracted to in me, you've been attracted to in Viola. Not the outward appearance, but all the kind of the good stuff.
That's just Shakespeare being like, it's alright if one, she's not a sinner because she likes...
She's not a sinner. She's not a sinner. For the purposes of this video, can I just point out I am being deeply ironic, in case this has been watched back in like 5 years with no context. You need to have a look at your notes as well, because this is another reference to gaming. Go on, Kathy, what are you saying?
Oh, I'm just going to finish this.
Shut then, I'm trying to get through this.
I've got a point, but I'm not sure.
Go on then. Come
I
on.
feel like it sort of goes against, Sebastian was like, Viola's got a mind that envy could not but call.
Fair.
Yeah. Does he just sort of go against himself saying that they're basically the same? Because is that not him?
No, I think in fact that line at the beginning is important, because it lets us know that her mind is as good as a man's. So what Viola has perhaps, or seen, Olivia has fallen for, is the masculine mind. So you're on the right lines. Liz?
When Sebastian's talking to Antonio in Act 2, Scene 1, he tries to separate himself from Viola.
Mm-hmm.
He knows that she's no longer him, and he tries to compliment her without complimenting himself. Now he's like, we're like the same.
Yeah, so that is starting to draw them back together. So I was saying it's a reference like to bowling. So you know, if you bowl a ball, it will kind of go off in one direction. It's like that, like your natural instinct. You would have been contracted to a maid. Now are you therein by my life deceived? You are betrothed both to a maid and man. But now Orsino even steps in to reassure her that it's okay. Be not amazed, right noble is his blood. It's all right, he's of status. You don't need to worry. If this be so, as yet the glass seems true, I shall have a share in this most happy wreck. Yay, Orsino gets what he wants. Happy wreck, nautical imagery and oxymoron. Boy, thou hast said to me 1,000 times that thou never shouldst love love woman like to me. Yeah, you've told me 1,000,000 times that you could never love a woman as much as you love me. She's like, yep, wasn't lying.
He knows that Viola's now a girl and he still calls her boy.
Yeah, why?
Like clearly.
Yes, if you want to apply a queer reading, it's because he's still attracted to her as a boy. Other reasons?
Could he still think of her as less than him?
Correct. Other reasons?
She's still dressed like one.
She still looks like a boy. Other reasons?
Wasn't there that whole idea with the Sophie Duncan video where she was talking about, I think it's in the performance one, she was talking about how like that idea of like the boy player and how like it would normally be like a young, like it's like something like from 12 to 22,
Yeah.
that age range. So Viola would be, it's bizarre because it's like a boy playing a grown woman
Yeah.
pretending to be a man,
Yeah.
and so it's like that weird.
So many layers.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how weird it is when you've got a boy playing Lady Macbeth? Talking about ripping a baby off your teat and smashing its head in. That's going to be weird. Could it also just be habit?
I was thinking that. Like,
Could just be habit. However, that's not very interesting. So we can do all the other stuff as well.
but you can talk about how disguise is so ingrained in characters in the story.
Mm.
Their language
Mm.
becomes like.
Well, yeah, let's keep going with that idea. And all those sayings will I overswear, and all those swearings keep us true in soul, as doth that orbed continent the fire that severs day from night. So she's saying she's going to be as constant as what's the orbed continent? The sun, yeah. Give me thy hand and let me see thee in thy woman's weeds. Oh, I want to see what you look like as a girl now. I can't help. Did any of you watch Blackadder? It's very old now. But there's a couple of Blackadders where a woman dresses up as a man. There's a Trenches one, Bob. And, no, I'll stop talking. You have no idea what I'm talking about. God, I'm old. The captain that did bring me first on shore hath my maid's garments. He upon some action is now in durance at Malvolio's suit, gentleman and follower of my lady's. So this again. Oh, what's happened? Where's that captain? Malvolio's locked him up for something. We don't know what happened. We don't know why. But this is kind of important because it's a plot device. It's a way of getting Malvolio back on the stage because she needs her clothes, because she needs to be reinstated as a woman. Who's got the clothes? The captain. And where's the captain? Locked up by Malvolio. Oh, he shall enlarge him. Fetch Malvolio hither. And yet, alas, now I remember me. They say, poor gentleman, he's much distract. And to Feste with a letter, a most extracting frenzy of mine own from my remembrance clearly banished his. So she's saying she's been so preoccupied, this distracting frenzy of being in love with somebody has actually stopped her thinking even about Malvolio. She hasn't given him a thought. Who are Malvolio? How does he, sirrah? Truly, madam, he holds Beelzebub at the stave's end as well as a man in his case may do. So Feste is continuing with this idea that Malvolio's mad. Has here writ a letter to you. I should have given it you today morning, but as a madman's epistles are no gospels, so it skills not much when they are delivered. So Festus had this letter on him for hours and hasn't made it known to her. Well, it's a madman's letter, so... But he knows that he's not mad. We've seen a really mean side to Feste here. Open it and read it. Look then to be well edified when the fool delivers the madman. By the Lord, madam! So he starts reading it in a totally mad voice. And Olivia, how now, art thou mad? No, madam, I do but read madness. And your ladyship will have it as it ought to be. You must allow voice. Prithee, read in thy right wits. So I do, Madonna, but to read his right wits is to read this. So there's another element of performance here. Feste is performing as Malvolio the madman, who isn't actually mad, but who has been made to perform as if he is mad. Therefore perpend, my princess, and give ear. And she snatches the letter from him and gives it to Fabian. By the Lord, madam, you wrong me, and the world shall know it. Though you have put me into darkness and given your drunken cousin rule over me, yet have I the benefit of my senses as well as your ladyship. I have your own letter that induced me to the semblance I put on, with the which I doubt not but to do myself much right or you much shame. Think of me as you please. I leave my duty a little unthought of and speak out of my injury. So I think there's a couple of things there. You have put me into darkness. I speak out of my injury. And then your own letter that induced me to the semblance, that encouraged me to dress. Like, that's where resemble looks like what you commanded. The madly used Malvolio. Did he write this? Aye, madam. This savours not much of distraction. This doesn't sound like a madman. See him delivered. Fabian, bring him hither. So while they're going off to get Malvolio, she turns to Orsino. My lord, so please you these things further thought on, to think me as well a sister as a wife. One day shall crown the alliance on it, so please you, here at my house and at my proper cost. So she's kind of going with it. Will?
I think it might be a language like when she says see him delivered. Did we like point out earlier on, I feel like it's someone says about being delivered to the world, it's like it was that idea that I think it's Viola.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
To be reborn as,
yeah.
As so maybe you could think about like as the idea, so if delivered is like meant to associate that word with being kind of reborn. Malvolio now, his whole past identity has been stripped away and he's kind of been reborn into this.
That is lovely, Will. I like that a lot. Yeah, that's a very good reading. Olivia's not only going to go ahead with this wedding, or both weddings, she's going to pay for them. So there's the kind of wrapping up of your transactional language to do with love. Madam, I am most apt to embrace your offer. But first of all, he's got to propose to Viola. Your master quits you, and for your service done him so much against the mettle of your sex. So he's like, well, I can't believe how well you've served me, given you're a woman. So far beneath your soft and tender breeding. And since you called me master for so long, you know, she's already had a good practice, hasn't she, being his wife, calling him master. Here is my hand. You shall from this time be your master's mistress.
Where did he ask?
Yeah.
So much wrong with that.
You've already been a good practice.
Oh, it's like, oh my god, I've David told me I'd be a good wife, and I picked up some plates from
He said much worse to me. Nothing I'll repeat while the camera is recording. It's a lovely man. So this is all evidence of how successful her deception, her disguise has been. What about this word mistress?
Isn't it like a woman on the side sort of thing?
Yeah. So yes, it's mistress as in status, but it also still has those sexual connotations of being on the periphery.
Is he more kind of committed to the idea of Cesario's, since he's more of an equal, I suppose?
So yeah, I'll marry Cesario, but you and your woman's weeds can be my mistress.
Yeah.
Yeah, perhaps, yeah.
I feel like it's really weird. Again, it's like that juxtaposition because he's saying your master quits you, so therefore it feels like he's going to cast aside that servitude like erotic relationship. But then also says, but since you called me master for so long, and like as again mistress is something kind of lesser, maybe not equal in that kind of holy matrimony kind of level. So it's like he still wants that servitude relationship.
Are you saying that Orsino's changeable and can't
No,
quite stick to something?
He's the most constant character in the whole.
Oh, yes, he is. So he still wants the erotic servitude, but he wants it from his wife now.
But he's right, so he's kind of said that you're going to be your master's mistress. So would that not mean I don't know, like
It's just different readings. It could just mean, yeah, you're going to be in charge of me now.
yeah.
We're going to swap.
So like
I will serve you erotically.
Really.
No, it says your master's mistress.
Yeah?
You speak in third person.
Yes. Yes, yeah.
So you're saying like your master is me and you
Yes.
will be your master's mistress.
Can we move on from Master's Mistress?
Yes.
I am determined to finish this play. 37 minutes. I thought we'd be done. A sister, you are she. Is this the man? I haven't missed a page, no. Enter Malvolio with the letter. Is this the madman? I, my lord, this same. How now, Malvolio? Madam, you have done me wrong, notorious wrong. Have I, Malvolio? No, lady, you have. Pray you peruse that letter. You must not now deny it is your hand. Write from it, if you can, in hand or phrase, or say it is not your seal, not your invention. You can say none of this. We'll grant it then, and tell me in the modesty of honour why you have given me such clear lights of your favour. I'd like to do a kind of tracking of light and dark imagery throughout the play. But bade me come smiling and cross-gartered to you, to put on yellow stockings and to frown upon Sir Toby and the lighter people, and acting this in an obedient hope. Why have you suffered me to be imprisoned, kept in a dark house, visited by the priest and made the most notorious geck and gull that e'er invention played on? Tell me why. So now this functions as part of the denouement as well, doesn't it? Because everything needs to come out into the open now. But does it? Is that what happens? Alas, Malvolio, this is not my writing. Though I confess, much like the character meaning forming the characters, the letters, it looks like my handwriting. But out of question, 'tis Maria's hand. Now I do bethink me, it was she first told me thou wast mad. Then camest in smiling, and in such forms which here were presupposed upon thee in the letter. Prithee be content, this practice hath most shrewdly passed upon thee. But when we know the grounds and authors of it, thou shalt be both the plaintiff and the judge of thine own cause. So she really empowers Malvolio there and says, when we find out who's behind this, you will be in charge of punishments. Now it's interesting here that it's Fabian that speaks first, not Feste. Good madam, hear me speak, and let no quarrel nor no brawl to come taint the condition of this present hour, which I have wondered at. I'm going to tell you something, but let's not let it spoil this lovely happy thing that's just happened, right? Let's just get it all done, and then we can go back to celebrating these marriages. In hope it shall not, most freely I confess, myself and Toby set this device against Malvolio here. Myself and Toby. Tasha, what's wrong with what he's saying there?
Is it not true?
Because who else was involved?
Maria.
Yeah. Why does he leave Maria out?
Is he trying to like protect her?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, it's because of the woman, it's like to a contemporary audience. A woman tricking a man and then tricking her lady would be more punished than Sir Toby would be. I guess Sir Toby has the status to be able to do
Yeah,
that.
perhaps. Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't thought that, Ems. That's a good suggestion. Upon some stubborn and uncourteous parts we had conceived against him. Maria writ the letter at Sir Toby's great importance. Olivia?
I was going to say, when this Aunt Maria, like, in a way it could be like they have taken ownership, like conducting those 4 planets, which they've done really well.
Yeah, they don't want her to get any credit. I hadn't thought of that. That's good. Yeah, because even here, they say Marie writ the letter, but it was Sir Toby's idea. In recompense, there's that transactional and love thing. Transactional and love thing, you know what I mean. In recompense whereof he hath married her. How with a sportful malice, what are we back to? So here, recompense, sportful malice, blood sports again. It was followed, may rather pluck on laughter than revenge. Come on, I want you to see the funny side of this, guys. Come on. And the reason that he says that, and this is important, if that the injuries be justly weighed that have on both sides passed. He's reminding us, don't think that Malvolio didn't deserve this. Injuries be justly weighed that have on both sides passed. Apu fool, how have they baffled thee? And now we get Feste entering the fray and giving his personal justifications as to why he got involved. Why some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrown upon them. I was one, sir, in this interlude, one Sir Topaz, but that's all one. By the Lord, fool, I am not mad. And then he reminds them, but do you remember? Madam, why laugh you at such a barren rascal, and you smile not, he's gagged. So he takes us back to when Malvolio really hurt his feelings. And he says, and thus the whirligig of time brings in his revenges. Feste has just been biding his time till he can get his own back. And that whirligig of time is a reference, we've talked about fate a lot, to the wheel of fate, which was, that doesn't look like a wheel, does it? Wheel, which is a medieval philosophical belief that everyone's life is on the wheel of fate. Sometimes you're at the top of the wheel, sometimes you're at the bottom, but it will keep turning. Sometimes it just doesn't turn as quickly as you might like 2020. Liz?
Would you say that this highlights how like Feste is always on his own? Everyone else in from Fabian was like put together in the planning of it. Feste is like, I did this, but it's on my own account.
Yeah, so the isolation of Feste again, even when he's been involved in a group activity. His reasons for it were his own personal reasons. Yeah, go on, Will.
I think you could also kind of read them as that kind of omniscience that he seems to have throughout the entire play. So if you were to like assume that a lot of the lines that he has are kind of about how he sees everything and he's very observant and he's very understanding of all kind of the machinations that go on.
Yeah.
The fact that he kind of just let them all go Malvolio and then just so he could get something out of it, it almost makes it seem like while all the other characters kind of force things to happen for their own kind of motivations, he just sort of things just kind of, it's almost like the story is really well bent around Feste.
Yeah, he's more an opportunist.
Yeah.
Good, that's good. Liz?
It's really infuriating how deceptive and cunning Feste is, and you wouldn't expect it.
Yeah,
But
this is quite a revelation at the end, isn't
He's
it?
proper revealing himself to be quite a mean person.
Good. And then Malvolio's very famous line, I'll be revenged on the whole pack of you. That pack, bringing us back to the hunting motif.
What else was it?
What just?
I was just waiting for it. I was like,
And Orsino sends Fabian after him because we need to get the we still need to get the keys to let the captain out. And then finally they talk about the marriage and he says, Cesario, come. Still talking to him as though he's a man. For so you shall be while you are a man. But when in other habits you are seen, Orsino's mistress and his fancy's queen. Okay. Now, I want you, let me see if I can get this right, because we were just doing this today. There's a critic called Leach who says that the fact that Orsino calls Viola his fancy's queen at the end means that we're still in that world of like unreality. And the quotation is on the board next door and I need to go and get it so it's exact for you. But it's almost like Orsino hasn't left. His ideas of love are still based on like the imaginary, the fantasy.
He's referring to Viola a lot more possessively right now. Like it's all about Viola is now his.
Yes, that's good, that's good.
Olivia's been pushed away, he's like, you're mine now, I need something.
Yeah. At the notes as well tell us that this his fancy's queen, the ruler of his desire. But one of the things that I have read also is that word queen, even in the 17th century, was being used in a homosexual sense as well. So if you want to pursue the queer reading, you'd be justified there. Emily?
this is like, I think it's like a pretty rude reading of it.
Would you like me to stop the recording now?
Well, no, it's all relevant.
All right, go on then.
Back it up with the text, it's just a bit like,
Go on then.
like gross. Like, so we all know that like Orsino is like a very controlling character
Yes.
throughout the play. And so like when he says here, like, you know, you're still Cesario because you're in the man's clothes,
Yeah.
which would back up Sebastian's genuine confusion.
Yes.
So like I think metaphorically you could kind of read this as he wants to be in control of like casting off her disguise. He wants to be the one to say when
Right.
the disguise is cast off, and then also possibly just like quite a sexual reading because he says like when in other habits you are seen, like literally taking off the clothes. Because obviously that's
Right.
a woman's kind of sole duty, especially in marriage. Like, I don't know, I feel like
Yeah, no,
that's way too far.
no, I don't think it is, and I think habits can be used there both as clothing and also in the habits of a woman. Roles, yeah. No, I think that's a good reading, Emily. And we're going to do Festay's songs separately.
I was scared to say it.
Oh my goodness, guys, we've got to the end of the play.